TTK. It's a term used to discuss weapon balance, and I'm sure you've heard it more times than you could possibly count over the last few days.
And he confirmed that the time to kill
be tweaking the time to kill mechanics in Battlefield.
Zero effects on the current TTK model
to change the time to kill.
Currently, DICE is changing time to kill.
What is TTK? What's going on, guys and gals? My name is Shadox, and this video will not only explain what TTK is and why it's important, but teach you how to calculate it for yourself, so you can have a better understanding when it comes to these discussions of weapon changes, and you can get an idea of the impact that these changes make. Okay, so TTK, or time to kill, is the amount of time that it takes to kill a target at full health. This idea applies to every weapon in every single shooter game out on the market, from Battlefield, Call of Duty, Fortnite, PUBG, and more. Oftentimes, when comparing weapons, we use this statistic to determine whether or not a weapon is good, and how quickly it can get the job done. Everybody wants to use the best weapons, and in most cases, TTK is where they start. Alright, so how is TTK calculated? It's actually fairly simple math. Let's use the KE7 from Battlefield 5 as our example. To get the basic TTK, we need two bits of information, the damage and the rate of fire. For the KE7, this is 25.1 damage per bullet maximum and 568 rounds per minute rate of fire. Okay, so the first step is to figure out how many bullets are required to kill the target. You'll often see this metric floating around in addition to time to kill, and we can abbreviate as BTK, or bullets to kill. Okay, so to find the BTK, we take the target health, in Battlefield this is 100, and divide by the damage per bullet, and round up to the next whole number. So for the KE7, 100 health divided by 25.1 damage gives us 3.98 bullets to kill. We round this up to 4, so the KE7 has a BTK of 4. Alright, the next step is to plug our BTK into this equation. Alright, let's break this equation down real quick so you can understand what's actually happening here. The first part of the equation is 60 divided by the rate of fire, and this gives us the time in seconds between each bullet shot. Another way of writing this is rate of fire divided by 60 to get rounds per second, and then take 1 divided by that number. Going back to the KE7, since this weapon has a rate of fire of 568, 568 divided by 60 is 9.47 bullets per second, and 1 divided by 9.47 gives us 0.1056 seconds between each shot. Doing the math this way helps paint a clearer picture as to what the equation is actually doing. But to save time, we can just use the 60 divided by rate of fire and it will give us the same answer. The next part of the equation is figuring out how many of these pauses between shots we have. So we take our bullets to kill that we found earlier and subtract it by 1. This is because the first shot is instant. You fire as soon as you pull the trigger. So 4 minus 1 is 3. Complicated math, I know. The last step is to multiply these numbers together. So 0.1056 seconds times 3 gives us 0.317 seconds, or 317 milliseconds. This number is our time to kill. This formula works for pretty much every weapon in any game outside of shotguns and a few other odd cases. Most places online will stop here, as using the minimum TTK is an easy way to compare numbers at a glance, and I will typically even use these numbers in my weapon reviews. But the further you look into TTK, the more details there are, and the biggest of which is the fact that firefights don't just happen at 1 meter. So how do we account for distance? Well, to figure this out, we're going to need an additional statistic from the weapon, the muzzle velocity, or how fast the bullet travels when it leaves the barrel. Side note, it gets even more complicated when you count in drag, but the effects of drag really only become noticeable at extremely long ranges, so I'm not going to go into it in this video. Okay, so the general plan is to take the minimum TTK that we found earlier and add on the time it takes for the bullet to reach the target. One important thing to keep in mind is that as your distance increases, your damage will decrease, and so each weapon will have 3 to 4 steps where the TTK increases dramatically. To save time, here are those BTK transition points for the KE7 and the respective base TTKs. As we can see, the KE7 deals 25.1 damage per bullet from 0 to 9 meters, 25 damage from 9 to 50 meters, 20 damage from 50 to 75 meters, and has a minimum damage of 18.5 damage per bullet past that. This gives us our base TTK for that specific range group. Now we are ready to factor in the bullet travel time. For the KE7, the muzzle velocity is 740 meters per second. So what we can do now is take the distance that we are from the target and divide by the velocity of the bullet to find the travel time of the projectile. So for 9 meters, the travel time is 9 divided by 740, which is 12.2 milliseconds. 50 meters is 67.6 milliseconds. 75 meters is 101.4 milliseconds. And we can add these to our base TTKs to find our new adjusted values. As we can see from the chart, the difference in the TTKs up close isn't a whole lot, but the difference becomes significant once you get out of close quarters. We can update our equation from earlier to account for the travel time and get our adjusted TTK. Using this equation, we can plot the TTK as a function of distance, and this is how websites like Synthic calculate their charts for the game. Comparing the charts between weapons will help you narrow down what ranges that weapon is best in, as there is rarely a weapon that is best at everything. Instead, you will typically see a weapon being better than the others in its class for a given about 10 meter range spread, and worse at the others. You can get even more in-depth on TTK by factoring in weapon recoil and spread to figure out hit chance, or headshot and limb damage multipliers and more. Doing this really opens up a can of worms, as then you're looking at many different outcomes for the same scenario. Now, I won't get into these here, but if there is interest, I can look at explaining these in more depth later on down the road. There is one final factor to TTK, and this one is a bit more technical, and usually isn't discussed when comparing weapons, but that is the server tick rate. The tick rate, or how many times per second the game calculates your position, values, whether or not you're shooting, your health, things like that, will all have a small effect on the TTK of a weapon, and is generally the cause of things like super bullets and a deviation between the TTK and time to die. But I will save that for the next video. Now that we know what TTK is and how to find it, let's take a look at the impact of changing some weapon values for the sake of balance. As of recording this video, the first balance patch for Battlefield 5 is just a few days away. Included in these changes are small yet significant changes for a few weapons TTK, namely the STG-44 and the STG-1TAC-5. Both of these are having their damages bumped up from 24 damage per bullet to 25.1. This means that the weapons will require one less bullet to kill and reduce the TTK of the STG-44 by 100 milliseconds and 91 milliseconds for the 1TAC-5. Developers can use these balance adjustments to achieve the results that they are looking to find. Before this patch, the semi-automatics for the assault class were much stronger in many more situations than the assault rifles, and as such, the usage rate of the STG was low, and so to increase the viability of this weapon, their TTK was decreased. If you want more information on how changes in TTK can affect the game as a whole, then I highly recommend you watch my video from the closed alpha where there were some significant changes being made. I go into all of the cascading effects that something as simple as reducing the bullets to kill of a weapon by 1 can have. Next video, we will be taking a look into the flip side of TTK, which is time to die, and hopefully answer some questions and confusion I've seen regarding the KE7 at the moment. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below and I will do my best to answer you. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Shadox and I hope to see you on the battlefield.